Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to our online Gita program. I am Indulekha Dasi, and I will be your guide this evening. We've reached the fifth day of our 9-day festival, which concludes with our Janmashtami celebration on Wednesday, the 12th of August. Let me break down how we will spend the next hour together. Next up is our speaker, all the way from Florida, USA, followed by a question and answer session. You can post your questions and any comments you may have in the Zoom chat box as well as on the Facebook. Later on, there will be a competition. I will ask you a question based on this evening's class, and the first correct answer submitted will win a prize. Just remember, technical glitches can and will occur, so I ask you to please bear with us. So now, let me introduce you to our esteemed speaker for this evening, His Grace Guru Gauranga Prabhu. Prabhu graduated from Yale at the age of 20 and then traveled to Paris to begin a new job at the University of Grenoble. He met the devotees, and instead of reporting to his job, he joined ISKCON and was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu was the first temple president of ISKCON Switzerland, and in 1986, he was elected to ISKCON GBC, where he implemented ISKCON's first internal conflict resolution process. In 1992, he pursued a career in law and became the general counsel of a subsidiary of a Fortune 100 corporation. In 2019, he was elected to GBC Emeritus for his service, and he currently does pro bono legal work for ISKCON. So now, let us switch over to His Grace, Guru Gauranga Prabhu. Welcome, Prabhu.
Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha, Kripasindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Tonight I'm going to speak on a verse that has been very dear to me over the years. In fact, from the time I was a bhakta and first read it. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 63. And I would like to explain why this verse has meant so much to me and how it helped me become a devotee. So that's basically what I'm going to talk about tonight. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the verse is Iti te jnanam akyatam guyad guyataram maya vimrishaitad ashishena yatechasi tatakuru. Translation. Thus I have explained to you the most confidential knowledge. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. Krishna speaks this verse to Arjuna at the end of the Gita. After he has gone through all the fields of knowledge that he wishes to share with his dear devotee and disciple. First, Krishna, as the perfect speaker, summarizes the contents. Then he speaks about karma yoga, transcendental knowledge, dhyana yoga, knowledge of the absolute, attaining the supreme, the opulences of the absolute. Then he reveals his universal form to Arjuna. He speaks of devotional service, nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness, the modes of nature, the divine and demoniac natures, the divisions of faith. And then in chapter 18, which is the conclusion, Krishna speaks the verse that I just recited. The amazing thing about this verse is that Krishna leaves it to us, the infinitesimal, insignificant jiva, to make the big decision about what to do with the knowledge that he has given. When Krishna speaks to Arjuna, he is speaking to each one of us, every one of his parts and parcels as well. When I first started reading the Gita, I had no idea what this book was about. And the name seemed pretty complicated and long and difficult to pronounce. I slogged my way through the first chapter. It got interesting when I started hearing the arguments or the teachings, as I thought, of Arjuna. Arjuna was explaining why one should not kill, why should one not hanker after material things like a kingdom, how one should not be disturbed by the fact that just because others are like that, I must be like them. He talks about the detrimental or deleterious effects of war, how there will be Varna, Shankara, unwanted progeny. He speaks about the elders and senior personalities lined up on the other side, even his gurus, Drona, his martial arts guru, and others whom he seems to be his teachers. I would rather go to the forest than engage in these sinful acts. I thought, oh, the teaching of the Gita is amazing. I thought that this was the Bhagavad Gita's primary teaching. And I was convinced by the arguments of Arjuna. Little did I know that Arjuna was the disciple and the student who was in Maya and was overwhelmed and bewildered and didn't know what to do. And then the next chapter, the Blessed Lord said, while speaking wise words, you are lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. What? What is this? And then I realized that because Arjuna had spoken so eloquently, so persuasively, and that I had embraced it fully, that when Krishna illuminates Arjuna, and Arjuna says that he is now ready to act without any hesitation or duality to fulfill the Lord's instructions, I was in the place of Arjuna because I had fully embraced everything that he thought. And so the Gita is a very personal teaching. It's not just that it was personal because Arjuna was on the chariot driven by Krishna between the two great armies. It's personal because if you actually read the Gita carefully and you understand what it is that Arjuna is saying, then you're on that chariot with Krishna too. Because when Krishna explains to Arjuna and Arjuna surrenders to Krishna, that's really what's going on in our minds and hearts when we read the Gita. Now, I'd read other different religious scriptures before, many of us had, and based on my experience in reading other religious books, I thought at some point there was going to be some type of, well, for lack of a better word, some intimidation factor, like, okay, that's the way it is. And if you don't accept it, newsflash, you're going to hell. You're going to burn. You're going to, I am a jealous God. I am an angry God, etc. That type of stuff. So when I finally got to the end of the Gita and I read this verse, I was dumbfounded. I just couldn't continue because it really encapsulates the existential decision and the invitation that Krishna is offering to each of us. I've explained everything to you, says the Lord. The most confidential knowledge. In other words, Krishna is assuring Arjuna that there is no other knowledge equal to or greater than this knowledge. You can go to the University of Witwatersrand or Yale or any university you want, and you will accumulate material knowledge, but you'll never get the wisdom that is essential for a successful human life, that is confidentially revealed by the Lord to his devotees. There is only one shloka in the entire Bhagavad Gita that is repeated twice. Manmana, think of me. Bhava madbhakto, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. The only verse that's repeated twice. And then having given Arjuna, and by extension or by proxy, us, each of us, the assurance that the knowledge that Krishna is giving, he is giving the most confidential knowledge, then he says, detached. Think it over. Vimrishaitad asheshena. Deliberate on it fully. And then, yatechasita takuru. Do what you wish to do. Do what I wish to do. Boy, that was a surprise. And the amazing thing was that if we hear this Gita with faith, if we hear this Gita with an open mind, one will wish to do what the Lord wishes us to do. The Lord will never coerce us directly. Of course, someone may be thinking right now, yes, but then we go to the material world. But that's what we want. Is that really Krishna's fault? Is that really a coercion that if you don't do this, you'll go to a world where you can be the enjoyer and try to think you're the controller? No. How is that coercion? Because that's what we want. So Krishna will allow us to obtain what it is we wish to have. If you want to try to be the enjoyer of the material energy, of course, that's not our constitutional position. So we fail. It's like getting the wrong job. No matter how hard you try, you won't be satisfied. You got the wrong job. It's not suited to your nature. You won't be happy. That's why parents, or at least I told my kids this, and I think a lot of parents tell their children this. Don't worry about the money. Just try to find something that you like, that you love, that you have a passion for. Throw yourself into that. It'll all work out, right? To find so-called material happiness. But it is a fact that if we wish to be with Krishna, the Lord will, as Prabhupada said, for every step that we take to him, he will take 1,000 steps to us. Krishna is always there waiting for us to turn to him, life after life. He is the super soul within the heart. He knows what is best for us, but he will not impose it on us. And so many years have gone by since I first read that shloka. And it's the one shloka I always remember, because doing what we wish to do, when we wish to do what Krishna wishes that we do, that's not just a one-time decision. It's something that we must do all the time. We must make that decision over and over, that again today, this is what I will do. I will do it because Krishna wishes me to do it, and I have made this commitment, and I will stick with it. The time goes by so quickly. I used to be young. I used to be skinny. I used to be innocent in some ways. Today, I'm old and overweight and not so innocent. And yet, fundamentally, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. That's basically the challenge of Krishna consciousness, to rise up every day and say, my dear Lord, I'm your eternal servant. Please engage me in your service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We are praying for the ultimate benediction, and that is that we may continue on the path of pleasing the Supreme Lord. And we are very fortunate to be able to do this in the association of others who have basically followed from a different start with a different situation, but basically we've all come to that core decision. We've thought it over, and then we've decided, I want to please God. I want to be reconnected with Krishna, and I don't want to have to loiter in the material world where there is so much misery, so much anguish. And it never really gets better in the material world, although the promise of it getting better is always tantalizingly presented to us. Don't worry, it'll get better. And maybe sometimes in an incremental, relative way, it looks like it's getting better, but it's a roller coaster. The material energy is clearly a roller coaster. Who would have thought 6 months ago that there would be a pandemic? And not just any pandemic. This is the pandemic with a very strange virus. It has unpredictable consequences in different people. Some people are asymptomatic. Some people, it hits them very hard. Some people have no underlying conditions, but it gets them. Some people have underlying conditions and they somehow survive. Yet, padang padang, yet be padang nateshang. In the material world, there is danger in every step. And we are cooped up now. We're not traveling like before. We're not exposing ourselves to certain dangers out of prudence. Fortunately, we have a technology that is truly amazing, and we're able to associate anyway. We're able to give a class. We're able to hear a class. We're still as busily engaged as we want to be. So Krishna consciousness is always available if we want it. And it is a state of consciousness. It's not about what we do, of course. These are the basic things. I like talking basics. I saw that when most of the classes that Prabhupada gave, He was talking about, you are not this body, we are not this body. When you're young, you think, oh, that's nice, that's great, and we're not this body. But between knowing it, jnana, and having that fully matured realization and applied knowledge, vijnana, it may take a while, it may take a lifetime. When I preached, as I still do today, we are not this body. When I was 21, obviously, it was not the same like today, because I thought that while it's true, it didn't seem to be as threatening as it is today. Because when one reaches my age, one thinks, there's a very limited amount of time left. Of course, that was true back when we were young too, but a very limited amount of time left. What do I want to do with the time that is left? The clock, the sand in the hourglass is running out for this life. How can I please Srila Prabhupada? How can I please my spiritual master? How can I really believe in a deeply held, realized way that when I call someone Prabhu, I am calling them my master, and I am inferentially calling myself their servant. If you are my master, then I am your servant. And to really finish up the course in this lifetime. That's what Prabhupada wanted. Prabhupada didn't say, well, there is no rush. You can always come back again and again. Of course, Krishna is very merciful. Neha biknamanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swapamapyasya dharmasya mahato trayate bayat. Nothing that we do is ever forgotten. There is a benefit to any amount of service that we perform, but that does not mean we should linger or that we should loiter in the material world. Prabhupada exhorted us to finish up in this lifetime and go home back to Godhead. Sometimes devotees say, oh, let me come back life after life. And I'm always, at least for my own self, I can't speak for others, I'm always a little nervous when I hear that, because there is everything positive about wanting to go back home, back to Godhead. That is not a material desire. And one must always be mindful not to pretend to desire something that one is not really able to digest, in the sense that we have to work from the point we're at. Many of us can't even desire to go back to Godhead, But going back to Godhead means to be finally and always irrevocably with Krishna in service. So there's nothing material about wanting to go back home, back to Godhead. And of course, one should take the human form of life very seriously and practice to go home back to Godhead in this life. This world can be seen with spiritual eyes. And it's a great opportunity to have this human form of life and practice for ultimately the final test at the moment of death. Will I remember Krishna? My mother lived to the age of 100 years. She had a very turbulent life. She was 21 years old, a university student, when the Nazis rolled into Warsaw, Poland, and started World War II and launched the Holocaust and Everyone is familiar with the story. Somehow or other, she managed to survive all of that, come to America, had a son, one child only, and everything was looking very good from her point of view because she wanted material security above all, and she wanted to give that to her child. But her child, probably spoiled in many ways, didn't take that very seriously and wanted more and kept looking. And I always remembered thinking, this is it? This is like the thing that I'm supposed to embrace as like success? It never looked worth it. And then I met the devotees, I got the Gita, and for the rest of my mother's life, until the very end, she was always disappointed by that. In the last 7 years of her life, I went back to my mother. I lived a mile from her. I looked after her. And then one day she was taken to the emergency room. She was 103 months. I went to the emergency room with my wife, who is an intensive care unit trauma nurse. And it was really clear, this is it. And I parked myself next to my mother's right ear canal. I had previously arranged with my wife, whatever medical questions there are, whatever, do we do this? Do we intubate? What are the instructions? Shall we? Said, you handle all of that. Keep all these people away from me. And I was resolved that I would start chanting Hare Krishna in my mother's ear. But I knew her well enough to know that while she still had strong consciousness, she would probably tell me to shut up. So I didn't start too soon. But as her consciousness, she began to ebb, you could see. She couldn't resist. Then I just started chanting japa in her right ear canal. I was about 3 millimeters away. And I just kept chanting, and I wasn't in an emergency room. I was just chanting and hearing, and I was feeling the enormous gravity of the moment. And I just chanted until I heard some medical voice say, we're calling it at 11:50 p.m. And then just to be sure, I kept chanting longer. And so we are able to help others if we can help ourselves. And I think about that and I think, well, I hope I have as good a death as that, because my mother left thinking and hearing Krishna's name. And that's really the perfection of human life. And however we feel about our state of advancement today, we shouldn't think we're advanced. We should always think that we will be tested, and that test will be can be very difficult test. You know, it's stated that the plan of Lord Sri Krishna is very hard to understand. Great sages have examined this subject matter exhaustively, and they are bewildered nonetheless. But at the moment of death, ante narayana smriti, the whole point is to think of Krishna. So I like to give half-hour classes. That's kind of what I've been doing for many years. And I see that it is now a half hour. So unless the organizers of this class object, I would be willing to stop at this point. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to take them. Please let me know if that's acceptable to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Can you hear
Krishna.
me? Yes, Prabhu, you can carry on. We only start taking questions from 8:15. If you want to continue, you can.
No, I know that, but are you saying that I must?
preferably at this stage.
Okay. So today is August 9th, and this is a very special time of year. Of course, we know that this is the high holiday season of Lord Balaram's appearance, Lord Krishna's Janmashtami, Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. But there's another special holiday, if you will, or event. Right now, let me calculate in my head, 35. Right now, 55 years ago, Srila Prabhupada was in Mumbai, and he was preparing to take a train across India via Nagpur to Calcutta, because he only had 4 days left to wrap everything up in India and make his way to the King George's dockyard in Calcutta, where a ship called MV Jaladuta was waiting for him, and where Prabhupada would make the most improbable journey. He was 69 years old, just about 70, and he was about to engage in a very bold, daring adventure to satisfy his spiritual master. He was leaving beloved Vrindavan, where he had translated many different scriptures into English so that he could use them, his arsenal, on his way to the great journey of his life. Destination America, destination New York. Prabhupada said of a number of his godbrothers, they had tried in their own way. They went to London, gave a few lectures, and came back. But Prabhupada felt that the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was much more than that. It was to make the holy name of the Lord available in every Nagar Adigram, every town and village in the world, in fulfillment of Lord Chaitanya's prophecy. And I've thought about this for most of my life. And then finally, in 2015, I put together a transcendental travel with Prabhupada audio-visual presentation based on archival photos that I researched. And at the 50th anniversary celebration in Boston, I gave a half-hour presentation, which was recorded. And you can see, if you watch this video, where Prabhupada was practically every day, and what Prabhupada was thinking based on his diary, his journal, and what Prabhupada was seeing. Prabhupada traveled from the King George's dockyard in Calcutta, down the Indian coast, the Bay of Bengal, all the way down to Sri Lanka, and the Jaladuta put in Colombo. And from Colombo, Prabhupada toured the city, and he made observations about British rule and the cleanliness of the city, he noticed. And then back on the ship and off to Coimbatore, where Prabhupada had made arrangements for 200 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams to be waiting to be loaded onto the ship. And then from Coimbatore, Prabhupada sailed across the Indian Ocean, into the Arabian Sea, into the Red Sea at Port Said. And you can see what Prabhupada's seeing. He traveled by all these gigantic mosques. If he had been on the deck of the ship or looking out a porthole, he would have seen these enormous mosques. He went through the Suez Canal, and then across the Mediterranean Sea. Prabhupada commented on the Algerian coast. He saw the Rock of Gibraltar. When Prabhupada was entering the Red Sea, he had 2 heart attacks. And he had a dream that Krishna came and was saving him. A very specific dream. And Krishna did. And then Prabhupada said that if the Atlantic had shown its usual face, I don't believe that I would have survived. But the captain told Prabhupada that the Atlantic was showing its calmest features in memory of this captain, Captain Pandya, I believe his name was. Prabhupada celebrated Janmashtami and gave a lecture to the crew on this cargo ship on Janmashtami. And he sailed across the Atlantic, and he arrived first in Boston. And the ship went on to New York. Prabhupada arrived in New York, I believe, on September 19. He arrived in Boston on September 17. He also wrote that very famous prayer, Bhagavat Markine, in which Prabhupada asked the Lord to kindly make my words suitable for their understanding. They are so wrapped up in the modes of ignorance and passion. How will they understand the message of Vasudeva? Prabhupada prayed. Only you, my Lord, can make my words suitable for their understanding, which is really the cornerstone of successful preaching, because one has to speak so that the audience can hear and understand. There is no one lecture recycled forever and ever for all places and all peoples. One has to speak in such a way that the audience will imbibe and assimilate. And of course, that's the famous prayer where Prabhupada said, "O Lord, I am just your marionette. You can do with me as you wish. Make me dance as you please. Make me dance. Make me dance." So this is like a holiday season from August 13th until September 19th. And so I've asked Indulekha and Champakalata to put up this little link, which you may see in the messages to participants. And that's the link. It's 26 minutes. And I hope you enjoy it. I promote this once a year only at this time. Okay. Well, we can't work like clocks, so I am basically done.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for that enlightening class. Everyone enjoyed it, I'm sure.
But don't be so sure.
I enjoyed it. So before we move on to your questions, I need to ask today's competition question, if that's okay. So the question for today's competition is, what should we, and this is based on Prabhu's class, is what should we say to the Lord, to Lord Krishna, every morning? So please, let me repeat the question. What should we say to Lord Krishna every morning? Please type in, post your answers to the chat box in Zoom or on Facebook. So, Prabhu, I have two questions for you. Can I go ahead and ask you the first question? Okay. In the verse 934, which you spoke about, it says that in the purport, Prabhupada says that unscrupulous commentators discard that devotional service has to be offered to Lord Krishna. So please explain this to us a little further.
That they discard?
Yes, they discard.
What precisely do they discard?
So unscrupulous commentators distort the meaning of what is clearly stated here, that all devotional service should be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Well, that goes basically to some comments, observations that Prabhupada made in his introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. He said, well, there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita. What is the need for another version of Bhagavad Gita? A rhetorical question that Prabhupada asked. And he answered it himself. He said, because all the other versions, they are versions, but unless one comes to the point of surrendering to Krishna, who is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita and the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, and engage in his service, one cannot claim to have understood the Bhagavad Gita. Unscrupulous commentators refers to all those who explain the Gita with a different outcome than the one that was intended by the Supreme Lord himself. Krishna says, as you quote, as you referred to, as I quoted, think of me, become my devotee. So any explanation of the Gita that doesn't say, yes, you think of Krishna, please. Yes, become a devotee, please. That is unscrupulous. Prabhupada often liked to speak of the then Vice President of India, Radhakrishnan, who said, it is not to Krishna that we must surrender, but to the unborn within Krishna that is within all of us. And Prabhupada said that is nonsense. First of all, there is no difference between, Krishna is not born as such. There is no difference between inside Krishna, outside Krishna, within Krishna. It is to Krishna. Krishna could have said, surrender to the unborn within me and each of us. No, he didn't say that. He said, surrender to me. I will protect you. Aham sarva papebhyo. I will free you from all sinful reactions. Mokshishami. I will liberate you from. So, Bhagavad Gita as it is, three very important words added. Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's the Bhagavad Gita in Krishna's words for Krishna's purpose with Krishna's message, not for some other purpose, not for politics, not for socioeconomics, not for impersonalism, but for devotional service. That is scrupulous. To translate something without any speculation is not such an easy thing. One has to keep the message of the author or the speaker first and foremost in the minds of the listeners. So any other explanation of the Gita is unscrupulous. That is my understanding.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. Okay, we have another, or do we have a winner? Sorry. I'd like to announce the winner now because usually,
Wait, I have a question.
okay.
What happens if more than one devotee gave the right answer?
Oh, we look at the time. The person who, there's a time stamped next when they post it. So it's the first correct answer, Prabhu.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, so let me check. Our winner today, the correct answer, by the way, is to, the winner today is Divya Venkansamy. And the answer is, please engage me in loving devotional service. So Divya Venkansamy is our winner. And I have another question for you, Prabhu. And this question comes from Mansukh. And the question is, the Bhagavad Gita is not an easy book to read and understand. How do you read and understand it? And how do you propagate it to young people in the family?
Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Just try to understand the absolute truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Because he has seen the truth, he can reveal it to you. In other words, it's difficult. Everything is difficult until it's not. Once you have the right conditions for understanding, then the difficulties go away. So if you try to understand the Gita all by yourself, you may or may not succeed. That's why the Gita has purports by Srila Prabhupada. That's to make sure that you've understood the shloka properly. Prabhupada brings the most salient points to your attention. He also refers to other scriptures to enhance our understanding of what the shloka is trying to tell us. But even that may not be enough for many. And then we go to temple and we associate with devotees and we ask them, what do you think this means? Or I understood it this way. Is that the right way? Is that what Krishna meant? And then in the association of more advanced devotees, one will get a clearer understanding, a distilled understanding of what Krishna is saying. And then, of course, it's the whole process of sadhana bhakti in support. Go to kirtan, be purified by chanting. Take prasadam, stop eating boga, stop eating foods that are not offered and not offerable to Krishna. And all of these things, like pistons in a motor firing simultaneously in harmony with each other, then you will move forward into a pristine understanding of the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Prabhu. Do we have time for a bonus question? Is it okay if I ask you another question?
I'm your servant. You just tell me what to do.
I want to ask you one more question, if that's okay. So what was the defining moment that made you decide to join full time? Because you did leave, you were supposed to start working according to your bio, and then you quit all of that and just decided to join.
I realized that if I went to the job that I never reported to, I would be turning my back on a big in other words, we come to, if we're fortunate, we come to a fork in the road. And that fork is, now that I have just been exposed to Krishna through Bhagavad Gita or devotees, now that I've understood that there is a whole world that I didn't know existed, do I simply pretend that nothing happened because it seems a little scary at first and just go on the beaten path as if nothing had happened? That kind of a denial is very unworthy, really. And then I thought, my life wasn't all that great. Everybody said it was great, but you have to think your life is good. You have to think your life is meaningful. I remember thinking that my parents wanted me to come back home after I was visiting museums in Paris after I studied history of art. I was visiting all the art in Paris before going to this job. Then my parents wanted me to come home. And I thought, there could be 3 unhappy family members, or at least let one of us escape. So I realized there would be 2 unhappy family members in any event, but let one have a chance. Let one have a chance at happiness and meaning. In the end, the happiness that we seek is because we're always blissful, Sat Chit Ananda, in our natural state. But meaning is very important. A living entity can go through a lot of difficult situations if the living entity feels there's meaning, like all the tapasya that a devotee may have to do. He does it or she does it because it has meaning. Otherwise, how could one tolerate all those challenges? So it's like the existential decision. And I decided I had to take the plunge. You never know when the opportunity will come again. It's like a big job offer. Are you going to take it? Well, if you don't take this big job offer, you don't know you'll ever have such a good job offer like this. Well, they're all nothing compared to the offer of becoming a devotee and entering the kingdom of God in this lifetime. So I decided to take a chance. And I've never had any regrets.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. We are grateful that you did take that chance. And thank you so much for your association. Thank you so much for your association this evening. And we've come to the end of our program. So I just want to thank everyone, including our technical support, which includes Surabi Kunj, Priya, and Amritamani, as well as Krishangi Radha and Champa Kalata. And thank you everyone who joined the program. We're so grateful that you joined this program and spent this evening with us. You make this program happen. So see you here online tomorrow for our next program, for our next Gita program. And Hare Krishna, and have a wonderful evening. Hare Krishna.
All glorious the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.